Happy afternoon, everybody. I've got 12 o'clock on my computer, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Hannah White, and I am the Workforce Coordinator here at the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund. I also wear the hat of Systems Coordinator, and we're really excited for you to be here with us today for our biweekly webinar. As usual, I'm joined by Megan Broha, who really keeps everything together, so she'll be putting links in the chat and communicating with you all if you have questions during the presentation. We're going to go ahead and get started. I will prepare you this week. We're a little bit out of order. We had some time constraints that we wanted to honor. So we're going to start off with a presentation from Michelle Allen with DCF, the Department for Children and Families, and she's going to give us an overview of the relief funding and how that's being allocated and how things are going. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the Early Childhood Block Grants, which is a huge funding source that the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund supports and is responsible for. And we are going into a period of open applications for those block grants. And then we just got our regular system updates. And the final piece of our presentation today is going to be just walking through some of the goals within, the strategies within goal 6 of the strategic plan, which is workforce, and just kind of giving an update on where we're at with those. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michelle, and she's going to take it away.
All right, thanks, Hannah. My name is Michelle Allen. Like Hannah said, I work for the Department for Children and Families. I'm the CCDF Pandemic Relief Project Manager. So today I just want to give an overview of services that are currently available, as well as highlight a couple programs that we have, both one that has been up and running for a little bit and one that we are really looking forward to launching in the coming months. So as many of you, I'm sure, know already, we have each of our categories or each of our programs broken out across a couple categories. So within the category of direct provider supports, just want to highlight sustainability grants. Our current round, the application does close on November 30th. So if you yourself have not yet applied for sustainability grants or know somebody that may benefit from those, definitely get your application in for that as soon as possible. 3,839 childcare programs have applied since March, so we're really excited about that. Very large number of programs that are benefiting from that support. Our Child Care Appreciation Bonus, over 10,000 individuals have applied since July 18th. So also really excited about the individuals taking advantage of that. That also, that application closes on December 10th. So another one to get your application in for as soon as possible if you haven't already. With our sustainability grants, we had funding amounts determined for the initial 9 months with a note that we would determine the grant amounts for the final 5 months depending on available funding. We wanted to get as much money out the door as possible, so this gave us a way to do that. So family group childcare homes, the amounts for those final 5 months would be $750. And then all of the other childcare programs, of course, depend on license capacity. So for those with license capacity of 24 or less children, that amount is going to be $1,475 per month. With a license capacity between 25 and 99 children, that'll be $3,800 a month. And then license capacity of 100 or more children, that'll be $7,400 a month. So if you have any questions about that, any questions on how to apply, reach out to Child Care Aware of Kansas, and they will take very good care of you. So a couple other programs that are available through or under our startup support category, our Childcare Health Consultant Network. Tiered supports are available currently in partnership with Child Care Aware of Kansas and the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. There's some startup stipends as well as health and safety grants available within this program. So if you are pre-licensure working to become licensed, certainly reach out to Child Care Aware for this. Background checks and licensing fees is a program that I want to just highlight because we recently extended this opportunity through September of 2024. So we've covered over 8,000 background checks, 700 or 670 licensing application fees, and 3,406 renewals since this program was first launched in August of 2022. Or excuse me, September of 2021. So again, this opportunity has now been extended an additional year, and we're really excited about the benefits that we're seeing from this program. Community grants are also now available under community partnerships. This is also in partnership with Child Care Aware of Kansas. So if you are part of a community coalition, reach out and see if this is something that you might benefit from. Under the quality improvement support category, our Child Care Quality Improvement and Support Agreement was recently awarded to Child Care Aware of Kansas. So this covers our links to quality implementation as well as our shared services network. So more to come on that very soon. This is still very, very new. And then the other program that I really want to spend a little bit of highlighting on, I guess, today is EC Resources Kansas. So this is an online catalog of templates and resources to support childcare providers and programs. Within this system, there's also a connection to telehealth and teletherapy services. And this will be really low cost for providers as well. So we're really excited about this. So this website will be password and username protected. So I do not have the actual website to show you today, but my colleague Megan Smith was able to provide me with some screenshots. So in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the homepage. Down at the bottom, you'll see what a page will look like. This one is on the child tax credit, and then one of the kind of topic pages around engaging families. So we're really excited about this website and hopefully all of the support that it'll bring to our childcare providers. So within workforce supports, we've increased professional development and scholarships. So there are many training, education, scholarships available currently through our friends at Casito, as well as some mental health technical assistance opportunities also available through the Infant Toddler Specialist Network and Casito. As well as some more specialized support around supporting children with disabilities. And then the workforce registry, I'm sure you all have been talking about it constantly. More to come on that very, very soon, but just want to note that it is still on our radar. And I know Hannah is doing everything she can every single day to move this forward. And then just a couple general systems improvement and support components. The DCF team needs support to make all of these things happen. So we have an awesome marketing and outreach partner, Mammoth Creative Co. You may have seen the Childcare in Kansas commercials on TV, radio ads, things like that. Just sharing general information on childcare and other relief funded initiatives. As well as our backbone support team. We recently contracted with the Public Consulting Group to provide us some additional administrative and strategic support. And then finally, our family supports, the Hero Relief Program. This should really say expanded access to childcare assistance. We raised the income limit to 250% of the federal poverty level, as well as removed the family share deduction, or I apologize, this should say we reduced the family share deduction to 3% for families. I'll get that updated, Hannah, before you send them out. And then our family needs and preferences study, we partnered with Wichita State University to help us understand the drivers behind the lack of participation in childcare assistance. So we're working on the survey for that. So also more to come, but it's in the works. We're really excited about that. So I dropped my email in the chat if anyone has any specific questions, concerns, and we can connect. But also just wanted to note our Child Care in Kansas website that will continue to be updated as we have new information available. So thank you all again for having me today. I will also be presenting a more in-depth overview on Friday at the panel if you're interested. I know Hannah will connect the YouTube link for everyone. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate you coming. And we will definitely talk about the panel opportunity on Friday. So for those of you who are not aware, the Early Childhood Recommendations Panel can be viewed publicly through the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund YouTube channel. So the public can view and you can submit public comments if you'd like. But yes, we're having another presentation from Michelle because she is very gracious and she's going to go over all of this again for our panel on Friday. All right, let's see if I can slowly share my screen again. All right. So our next section, as I said, we're just going to go over the early childhood block grants. This is a funding opportunity that is that just opened up earlier in the month and is a really big funder of early childhood programs across the state of Kansas. So it has a really wide impact for a lot of children and families in Kansas. The early childhood block grants are supported and allocated by the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund. It comes out of the larger CIF or Children's Initiative Fund, part of our budget. But the overall purpose of ECBG is to provide early childhood services for Kansas children and families aged birth to kindergarten entry, as well as services for prenatal and family supports. So it really centers around that B5 direct service support, especially for at-risk children and families. So we'll define that a little bit better as we go forward. But I just thought it was very important that we talk about this opportunity because I feel like sometimes programs who know, and those that don't. And so I would hate for a program to miss the opportunity to apply. So here are some of the funding requirements for ECBG. It's funding for an entire year, and it's a pretty significant funding amount. I think typically we allocate about $3 million, but that's based off of the final legislative recommendation. So it's not a firm number, and there's certainly not a firm amount of allocations or number of grantees. But one of the most important things to remember about ECBG as an opportunity is that it needs to be supplemental funding to fill gaps in an existing program. So it cannot be the primary or only funding source. A program that is interested in applying has to evidence that they are using what they already have, investing in their community, and trying to find other funding sources. Again, these are grant awards that are eligible for programs that provide those direct services to at-risk children aged birth to 5. And to be eligible, you do have to be a 501c3. That's very important. County and city government or a unified school district. So I've had the pleasure of actually reviewing these applications, I think 2 years in a row now, and it's really eye-opening. And so I just wanted to include some tips for success for those of you that may be preparing your applications. These are some of the things that the reviewers are going to be looking for. So common measures are definitely relevant, and those applicants that are successful will need to document how they're going to utilize common measures to show progress and show that the investment is valuable. And again, we all know that there's a huge emphasis on public-private partnerships and just engagement with a variety of shareholders in every community. That's a big part of the way that we want to do things here in Kansas. So ECBG is no different, and reviewers are really looking for how your program is going to build those community partnerships, use what's existing in the community, and enhance the services and programs that are being delivered for those at-risk children and families. And then there's a couple other specific, so support the areas of impact, and then contributing to the indicators of success, which are all of these things are outlined very, very clearly in the RFP. If you're going to go ahead and apply, it's a very thorough document. Here are some other things that I'd like for you to keep in mind if you're planning on applying. Strong proposals should include pretty succinct plans about why the community needs either the additional seats or why capacity is an issue. And typically data is the best way to support that argument. So that's one thing that we'll be looking for. Additionally, outcomes. So we already talked about common measures. There's actually a variety of other measures that are used, but ECBG is very data driven. And so reviewers will be looking for how programs will be measuring success. I already talked about it, but public-private partnerships, we know that that is one of the ways we may be able to unravel the mystery of making childcare work, is getting private entities to invest in childcare because it is for the public good and it's actually for the benefits typically of their employees or the community that they're part of. So those public-private partnerships are really key. And again, the evidence-based, data-driven practices are super important. And overall, just how is the program going to increase the availability of that high-quality childcare? So we know that capacity is a huge issue across Kansas, across the nation. We're not unique, but one of the primary goals of ECBG is to increase capacity and to serve children and families that desperately need the protective factors that we know early childhood care and education can deliver or help contribute to. So some of the, for those of you who may not be aware of the terminology, because I was not before, so some of the factors when we talk about at risk children and families that are being served include low-income families, migrant families, children or families with special health care needs, children who experience homelessness, and it can be intermittent, just housing instability, children that are involved with foster care and or care that's offered during non-traditional hours. So these are really the children that all the data says are at the most risk for having difficulty in those formative years. And so that's why ECBG is designed the way it is, and that's why we implement it the way that we do. So this is the timeline. And as I said, ECBG applications, the portal opened November 4th. We take applications through the Common App. It's pretty easy to navigate. Like I said, all of the documents for a prospective applicant are on the Kansas Children's Cabinet website. There's also a link that'll be in the chat. And the RFP itself is very, very detailed and very clear as far as the expectations and how to be successful. So applications will be taken until December 16th by 5 p.m. If you have any written questions, you can certainly submit those until December 9th. And then from about December, we'll say 17th until a little bit before that, April 14th date is when applications will be reviewed by a team. It's a very structured process. Those applications will be reviewed, and then the final portfolio will be submitted for approval by the cabinet at the April meeting. So, and of course, all of this depends on the legislative budget, as I said. So I think last year it was about 3 million. So we don't know where that will land this year, but that's what we know about last year. So again, this is for grant year July 1 of 23 through the end of the school year, then June 30th, 2024. So just as a reminder, for those of you who may be interested, you do need to be one of those types of entities. So the 501c3, state and local, or a unified school district in order to apply. But it's a really wonderful funding opportunity. And I couldn't even begin to imagine the breadth of impact that these grants have had on children and families in Kansas over the years. So really, really great funding source across the nation. All right, so we have some general updates for you. As you may know, November is National Family Literacy Month, and one of our favorite things to talk about here is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, because it's a wonderful contributor to early childhood literacy. So if you don't know, the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program is a way that families can sign up for books for their children for free. And Kansas Children's Cabinet is the official state partner. And then there are local affiliates across the state that help support this initiative. If you're interested in becoming a local affiliate, there's going to be some links put in the chat that you can follow and ways to connect and follow up on that. You can also look and see if your community already has an imagination library. But for National Family Literacy Month, there's a lot of really great free coloring and activity sheets that you can print off for your program or your kiddos or for yourself. So check that out. We've talked about this a few times, but just to make everyone aware, one of the innovations that's come out of the last year is between KDHE and the Department for Children and Families is setting up a mobile fingerprinting unit. One of the things that we heard and have heard over the last few years is how cumbersome that fingerprinting process can be, which is very difficult to navigate. So DCF staff is willing to come to you. If you live within an hour of Wichita, Topeka, Manhattan, or Hutchinson, and you have a minimum of 10 people, they're willing to come to you and help you through that process. So I would say take advantage of that if you have a lot of staff that are needing to onboard, or if this is a need that you think you could use, or a resource you think you could utilize. So we are currently in the application period for relative care providers in the workforce appreciation bonuses. And also if you're not a relative care provider and you missed your slot, you can go ahead and apply now. We know that this process has been a little bit difficult to navigate and there's been some delays, but I know that all of the agencies that are involved in this effort appreciate your patience in getting these payments out. And just continue to connect with Child Care Aware of Kansas. If you have questions or are running into some issues, they are contracted to provide support and they do a wonderful job looking out for our providers. So again, we're in the period now for relative care for the appreciation bonuses if you've not got your one-time payment. So we have a few safety webinars that are put on by the Kansas Head Start Association in partnership with the Institute for Childhood Preparedness. So if you are a KHSA member, there's a discounted price. If you are not, there's a different price. But 3 of the topics that are upcoming are de-escalation, home visitor safety, and then emergency preparedness and crisis communication. So, and all of these are approved for KDHE clock hours if you are needing those coming up on the end of the year. We have some early childhood events that we wanted to highlight for you. Kansas Parents as Teachers has some ACEs training. This will be tomorrow through KCSL, the Kansas Children's Service League. And then they also have Positive Supports Impact on Family Wellbeing, and that's December 15th. And if you remember here a few months ago, we had on the Family Support Network to talk about starting up a variety of support networks across the state. But the official training for that, the standards of quality for those personnel, there's another training opportunity here at the end of this month. I believe there will be another one in the I think it's late January is when the next one is planned for. So if this is something that you need to get done and you can't make this November date, I believe there's another one coming up in January that you can sign up for. This is the last time that we get to talk about the workforce survey. It closes on November 20th, and it's incredibly important that we have as many contributions as possible. So every single year, the Workforce Development Advisory Group, which is staffed by Casito, they conduct a really comprehensive statewide needs assessment, and the results of that assessment informs future professional development opportunities for childcare providers. So it's very important that we get meaningful responses to this survey because it informs where investments are made. And If there are needs from the workforce as far as training or professional development, it's a great way to hear about those needs and then create services, supports, or training opportunities based on what the workforce would like to learn more about. So if you work in an early childhood setting that provides care to children 0 to 12, you're eligible to take this survey and strongly encouraged. The responses themselves are completely anonymous, but there's a drawing at the end. And so you would need to supply a little bit of information for the drawing, but the responses are anonymous and the survey itself is available in English and Spanish. So I think there are gift cards being given out for that drawing at the end of the survey. Okay, so that's all I have for just general updates. And for this next section, we've really never done this before, but I think that sometimes in this work, it gets a little bit, it's easy to get discouraged when there's so much going on. And so I just thought workforce would really be a great place to talk about all of the wonderful things that have been happening in Kansas over the last few years, specifically as it relates to the goals of the strategic plan. So we're just going to talk about kind of what's been going on. And if you know of something that I don't bring up, please feel free to put it in the chat. If you know of some effort that's taking place across the state, even if it's just in a pocket and it's not statewide, we love to hear about ways that individual entities, programs, just individuals are mobilizing, because that's how this kind of work gets done. So strategy 6.1, the overarching goal is to expand the number of professionals entering and remaining in the workforce. And so one of the difficult things about our strategic plan and where we're at right now is that the last 2.5 years, we had some real significant barriers. And so I know that you all know that just as well as I do. So 6.1 talks about developing recommendations to increase compensation and benefits. And I will say that that is something that we have been working on. Our efforts with the career pathway, we developed a few different recommendations that included financial supports for the workforce, like pay for substitutes so that people can attend professional development, pay for substitutes so that we can have our providers participate in communities of practice, just general stipends. We've also created a formal wage scale to get our workforce to where we think they need to be as far as pay. So there's a lot of groundwork that's being done specifically around compensation and benefits. We also know that there have been a couple of really wonderful tools created over the last 2 years. So there's the cost estimator that was created through collaboration with the recommendations panel, and that calculates the cost of total investment for the workforce at like a state or regional level. And then at the local level, we have the tool that was created by Child Care of Kansas that talks about what it would take for a business to remain sustainable or for a community to start a child care program. And it allows for things like capacity changes, etc. So a lot of great stuff that's going on with compensation and benefits, but a lot of it is tied to larger initiatives. 6.1.2, we are definitely working on a career pathway. We have been collaborating with representatives from all of the state agencies and all of our partners that offer supports and training. And we are really excited to start rolling that out first of the year. We're polishing up the last pieces of work for this first phase of implementation. So really excited to release the career pathway soon. And then as far as opportunities at the high school level, I'm so happy to say that over the last couple of years, there's been a really strong emphasis on childcare within that FACTS pathway through the CTE program. We have wonderful staff at KSDE within the CTE program that they've been tireless advocates for specifically childcare as a need for the workforce, and have been coming up with some creative solutions of how we can infuse those childcare courses into other pathways to still give students a chance to be exposed to them. Okay, so we're going to keep moving on. We know that the workforce registry, oh, go ahead.
Before you start, we do have a question in the chat. Lisa Williams, where is the pay scale study located?
So it's not public. It is, it's part of the work that we did for the career pathway because we were tasked with figuring out how much of an investment would be needed to get a career pathway off the ground. And so we came up with a rough estimate of what that wage scale would look like and the total amount of investment into the workforce to make that happen. So it's not public, I can't release it, but it is part of the career pathway work. And we are working very hard to make sure that that those investments are being put into the system. Okay, so first goal here, we know that the workforce registry is in progress. At this point, it's just some administrative processes that are holding us up, but we had a very robust selection and procurement process. Many of you were involved in the research that went into what Kansas wants for a registry. So that process, I just really don't think that we could have done the last few years better. I think that whatever product we end up with as far as a registry goes, it'll be a really wonderful product. And I think we're positioned really well, learning from other states and being one of the later states to develop a registry, that we hopefully won't have some of the kinks that other states have had. So the second one here really speaks to the need for the workforce registry. We have a difficult time documenting and addressing recruitment and retention challenges. Additionally, there's a lot of nuances that were created in the last 2.5 years, workforce issues that are specific to the pandemic and not necessarily our workforce. So it's kind of difficult to aggregate where one problem starts and ends and what is really a product of the pandemic and what's unique to our workforce. So I would say that one's in progress. This pre-service faculty and inter-service professionals, definitely a lot of that is going on for the career pathway work. I know that our professional development contractor, which is Casito, is always doing this, always iterating. But then the other thing is like that workforce development advisory group, the survey that they sent out. These are the types of effort that inform this bullet point, is speaking to the workforce and saying, what do you need? What are you not getting? So I feel pretty good about the objectives that are outlined on this slide. So moving forward, part of the work of the career pathway is establishing that comprehensive professional development system. We have a number of wonderful professional development providers in the state. Community partners that providers just know and they go to, whether that's a local health department or the YWCA. We have larger partners like Childcare of Kansas or Casito, KCSL. We have a lot of really great professional development across our state. And one of the objectives in the next phase of the career pathway work is kind of streamlining our understanding of what's available in the state so that we can better serve our population. So if there are gaps, let's say with diversity, equity, and inclusion training, for example, then we can address that. Then we can work on creating more of those courses. But first, we need to understand where the gaps are. I am super excited about this next bullet point. So the revision of the core competencies, one of the subgroups at the Workforce Development Advisory Group has been working tirelessly on this. And I think some really exciting things are about to happen come the end of this year and going into early next. Which is wonderful because it just goes hand in hand with the career pathway work, the registry work, just really revamping and revitalizing our professional development system here in Kansas. So they've made great progress, even with all of the barriers that have been put in their way. So that is moving very nicely. So engaging 2- and 4-year institutions of higher education regarding articulation agreements. So this is something that we have been working on a little bit. For those of you who may not be familiar, we have 2 really wonderful, that I know of, I'm sure there are more, but 2 really wonderful organizations that represent higher education. So there's ECHO and EQUIP. One is 2-year and one is 4-year, and it's professionals from those types of institutions that get together. And and talk about how we can align, how we can best serve early childhood interests. And I'm happy to say that the Career Pathway Project, we've engaged with them quite a bit, and they've had their eyes on the Career Pathway because we wanted to make sure that we're as aligned as possible and that we're not ostracizing early childhood against K-12 or against higher education. So there's alignment there. I'm really excited to see what happens with the Career Pathway and articulation agreements. We know that some institutes of higher education recognize, for example, the CDA as 9 college credits, but some do not. So I think that specifically is a great starting point. And like I said, I'm excited to see what kind of articulation agreements come out of the next year or so as people start to use the Career Pathway, and we can start talking about things like, what is the CDA worth? Is it, can we all say it's the same amount of credits to benefit our workforce? And this second one here, I think it really speaks to the other bullet that was on the other page. This is ongoing. So coordinating and just trying to be as efficient as possible is ongoing. And I think there's anybody that's involved in professional development, this is one of our primary goals all the time, is to be more efficient and to be delivering services in a way that is a blessing to the recipient. So this next one here, we talk about training, mentorship, and coaching. And I am really, really proud to say that this is a key component of the Career Pathway, training, mentorship, and coaching. So unequivocally, as we did feedback sessions and talk to the workforce, talk to our shareholders at our systems level, coaching and mentoring were some of the strongest resources that we heard about from the workforce. They said, if you just do one thing, do this, or, really above all, the mentoring and the coaching is so important because it helps reinforce and helps with that application process of skills and competencies. So some very intentional pieces of the design of the Career Pathway are mentorship, coaching, beefing up professional development, really investing in that as a state. And then, as I said previously about the just professional development in general, I can anticipate that these other topics, especially equity, diversity, and inclusion, we will see that there is a need for more training opportunities that are in that vein. So I feel very good about that bullet as well. I think in general, I've covered this next one. And I think a lot of this will come to fruition as we continue the work on the Career Pathway and we continue the work in partnership with our professional development partners across the state. And this one, I can say that I don't know a whole lot about things that are happening specifically with school-based and non-school-based early childhood care and education. I don't think that this is an area that I've seen much movement on. But I've been involved in different pieces of the strategic plan. So if you know of something that's happening here that I don't, you can drop it in the chat. I think we have pockets of this happening, certainly, but as far as a statewide initiative, I don't know of anything here. All right, and so then 6.3 is really to support the diversity, equity, and inclusion in the early childhood care and education workforce. And I will start by saying that one of the, I think, best things or a really profound thing that's happening is, again, back to that workforce development advisory group. So another subgroup there is the equity, inclusion, and diversity group. And it's got representation across systems, a lot of diversity at the table, which is great. But one of the things that that group is looking at is, as a system and as a state, how do we view the issues of equity, inclusion, and diversity? So definitely feel like 6.3 and just the emphasis on EID is there, and this is something that we care about, and it's evidenced in a lot of different work that's happening. There's definitely some financial incentives happening in pockets for recruitment, retention, and advancement. Again, I think that this is really disrupted by the pandemic. This has been a difficult one. Apprenticeships, for example, are something that's been picked up and put back down a number of times. But that's one strategy that we know could help support a diverse workforce and just recruitment and retention in general. And again, when we talk about the professional development and the diversity in professional development, I think that from a systems level, I've seen a lot of opening the door for that conversation. And I think that the space has been created to hear what the workforce wants and to hear where the gaps are. I'm excited to see what that workforce survey tells us about what's needed and what people want to know more about. And to date, I don't know much about professional development programs that increase workplace diversity. I think for the most part, people are just trying to keep their programs running, so it's kind of difficult to get too far ahead when day-to-day is really the concern. So I think this is something that's really been, this specific bullet has been affected by the pandemic, where it's, that's kind of difficult there. Okay, and so that is the summation of strategy 6. So for the goal of workforce, that's in general what I know about what's happening with workforce. I know all of you attend a number of really great webinars and are connected to places like the Hunt Institute. So I would encourage you, if there's anything else that you would like to put forward that you know of that's happening, we'd love to hear about it. Sometimes my lens is the 50,000 foot view, and I don't know really what small communities and small initiatives are happening, and that's to my detriment. But we have a lot happening, and I think the next few months we're just really going to explode with workforce stuff. We have all these projects that are coming to a head. The career pathway, the workforce registry, the core competencies, the individualized professional development plans. There's going to be a lot of resources that are infused into the workforce at the beginning of 2023. So I'll make sure to catch you all up again here in a few months, but in general, this is what we know is happening. So with that, I'll give you some reminders and next steps. Again, we have our early childhood recommendations panel meeting. It's this Friday. It'll be 9 to about 10:45. Again, you can view that publicly on the YouTube channel for the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund. We have another biweekly webinar in 2 weeks, November 30th. And then we have our final Children's Cabinet and early childhood group meetings in December. So final for the year. The Children's Cabinet meeting is in the morning at 9 o'clock, and then the early childhood stakeholder group is going to be, I believe it's 1:30 in the afternoon to 3. So if you've not registered for that, please do that. And one other thing that I will say is in your reminder email for your biweekly webinar, you're going to start to get notifications that you need to actually register via a new link, a totally new link. We need to make some changes with some technical stuff, and so we're encouraging everybody to please manually register with the new link that's provided in that reminder email that gets sent out, so that way we can continue to see your faces next year when we start with our new cadence of webinars. So it's just a Zoom thing that we have to deal with. So if you get that link, go ahead and follow it and register. You can register for all of them for next year, and it won't mess with your current registration for these to the end of the year. But everybody needs to re-register or you will miss out on all of these wonderful updates. So that's all I've got for you. I'm going to let you go early, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. And I hope that you, like me, are just getting excited for Turkey Day, because really food is all that matters. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.